Welcome back into another episode of Top Shelf presented by Enterprise. Big trips, sudden detours, or last minute plans, whatever it is, we're here for it. Fellas, today we are here to tier list every team in the NHL. Before we get into that, a couple trades happened. One big one.
What happened this
one
weekend?
smaller one. Quinn Hughes is on the Minnesota Wild. We haven't had a show since we talked about where he was going, and none of those places were the Minnesota Wild. So I know last week I gave ourselves a pat on the back for at least we were forecasting a Quinn Hughes trade. I'm going to rescind that pat on the back. We're a show of integrity here. So, yeah, we did not have the Wild anywhere close to the list, but we do need to quickly recap, what that looks like for the state of the NHL, what that looks like for both teams involved. So we'll start with you, Josh, quick. How do you feel about this trade?
I love it. I wish there were more trades like this.
Yeah.
Minnesota kind of coming out of left field a little bit. Maybe we should have seen it coming because they have all this draft capital to trade and good prospects. And now they have cap space with the Parise and Suter buyouts long in the rear view. So I love the trade. I think it's a good return for Vancouver. You're getting some high-end pieces. Bouillam's awesome player to build around. Really like Rossi. But my major takeaway from this trade is that I've seen a lot of people immediately just label the Wild as a cup contender, and I'm not there yet because to me, that second line center hole is way too big of a void to ignore, especially in the Central Division with the Avalanche and the Stars. So I'm just pumping the brakes a bit on the Wild hype. I love the trade, but I'm still not ready to, crown them a contender just yet.
Yeah, fair enough. John?
Let me talk about the Canucks for a second. So for me, it's what kind of ceiling does Bouillam hit? Or does he hit his ceiling, I should say? Where if you look at this trade, we can talk all day about like how they found themselves in this Quinn Hughes situation, the direction of this organization. But given that they were going to trade Quinn Hughes, they got a really good package. I think that's almost undeniable. And it's 4 pieces for 1 player. So if you look at it that way, okay, they got 4 long-term pieces potentially here. Like nothing's guaranteed, but like Liam Ogren, that's a top 9 winger. It's pretty obvious that he's going to have a long career. Marco Rossi, I don't think he becomes a first-line center, but if he's a second-line center, another good piece. That first rounder, who knows? But like you have you have the potential.
It could be anything.
It could be many things. It could also not be an NHLer. So there's lots of but let's just assume it becomes a like low-end NHLer. And then you get to Bouillam, and that's sort of the crown jewel of this trade. Not only in the moment, because as we saw in his debut, he was dazzling out there.
Yeah.
But long term, does he settle in as like a second pair power play guy, or does he reach the heights of first pair, power play quarterback of a good power play and become essentially a poor man's Quinn Hughes? And that's not an insult to Bouillam. That's like a high praise where it's like, Quinn Hughes, top 2 defenseman in the world. What if Bouillam's a top 10 defenseman, top 15, top 20, like a high-end first pair guy? If you look at that paired with the other 3 pieces, all of a sudden, the Canucks, not only a win-win, but, you could argue, depending on what happens with Hughes in Minnesota, maybe they win long-term in terms of, like,
for sure,
those 4 pieces all working together. So my mind immediately goes to Bouillam as, like, sort of the key to this trade and him reaching that ceiling, or if he taps out at a lower end, you start looking around going, okay, they got 4 pieces, but none of them are popping super high.
To that point on Bouillam, like, if he becomes, like, say, Cam Fowler, like, is that a satisfactory outcome for the Canucks?
I think so.
Okay.
I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that for sure. What do you think? What do you think of it, Kyle?
Yeah, it's a fascinating trade because, for starters, I think it all came together so much quicker than all of us expected. Like, I think we were expecting this to play out over months and maybe come to a head a little bit before the trade deadline or after the Olympic break. And then all of a sudden it's a Friday night, we're getting ready for a couple of games, and then bam, there's the tweet. Look, for me, it's all about Bill Guerin cooking here. And he literally was.
Meatballs.
He literally was when he got the call from Rutherford and company that they were going to do the trade. But for me, it's a general manager being aggressive in the NHL and going out and making a trade that levels up his team. And not like any of these kind of like typical trades we see where it's like maybe around the edges and maybe gives them like a 1 or 2% better chance of winning. Like, this legitimately moves the needle in terms of the upper echelon ceiling of the Minnesota Wild. And how many general managers are willing to make that kind of trade in the NHL? I think it's honestly a pretty short list. Like, how many conservative, we can't make moves midseason, all that we see from general managers. Well, Bill Guerin just went out and got the second best player at a position in the NHL midseason with a 1.5-year term left. Didn't worry about whether they can or can't retain him longer term. this makes the Wild a potential contender. We'll get to that a little bit more in a bit here. But regardless of whether you view them as like a legit contender or where you have them on that kind of scale of the NHL right now, they're in a better position today than they were this time last week. And I think that's the big part for me. So I love seeing a general manager in the NHL go out and be aggressive. And for me, Bill Guerin's cooking with this trade. I really like the outcome here.
Hughes spoke at length, too, how much that meant in
Yes.
his post-game presser after his first game with the Wild. He's like, man, I love that Billy did this. I have so
And
much
that's an
respect
aspect
for
we
Billy.
never really think about.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, not
Plus,
at all.
in terms of cooking, like that organization is cooking with their drafting and developing. I mean, those three players.
I thought you were going to ask for a meatball recipe.
Yeah, like, there's many ways to go about this. Like, it's really impressive that every first rounder either like meets expectations or exceeds it. So at one point you go, okay, I got all these sort of like prospects, young NHLers. Like, I'm going to put my chips in the middle of the table and make some noise here. And obviously the Kirill Kaprizov contract is another instance of Billy Guerin going like, I'm sick of the Minnesota Wild being mediocre. Let's be great.
I mean, this is a team that's really only made, I feel like, 2 big acquisitions in the last, I don't know how many years, but this trade, Parise and Suter, what do you guys have 1 and 2? Do you think that this one takes the cake?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
this
so,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
As exciting as those contracts were at the time, yeah. I think this is,
I would
neither
agree
of them
with you.
were the level Quinn Hughes is at right
That's
now.
I
the
would
big
agree.
thing, right? It's like
Yeah.
understanding that this is a top 10 player in the NHL, a second best player at his position, arguably first at the very top of their game. Like, that's the caliber of player we're talking about here. And it's like, when we see movement and stuff, like Mikko Rantanen moved last year, he's in that conversation, but second best winger in the NHL, maybe on the high end there. When we're talking about like Parise Suter, when those moves happen, like, this is a different level even from like the typical star moves that we see, and that's what's so exciting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it puts the Wild into a bit of an interesting spot. We all can agree that they're not the favorites by any means. Maybe they're contenders, but that's what the
Probably still third in their division.
still third in their division. There, it'll be interesting to see where the chips fall. But that's what we're here to do on this show today, because the standings are still a mess. We're almost halfway through the season, and just for reference, Colorado's first in the league in points with 53. Sorry. The difference between them and the third place team, Carolina, is 9 points. The difference between Carolina and the 22nd team in the league in points is also 9 points.
Wow. That's
so
crazy.
That entire gap between 3 and 22, all within 9 points, which is insane. I don't know if there's been a season like this in quite some time where everything's so close this far in. Good for the parity. But let's jump right into it. Tier listing all 32 teams in the NHL, presented by Enterprise. We're starting with the bottom tier. There's always next year. These teams, we've pre-established that they're all going to be in there. There's 18 teams in this bottom tier that we've titled There's Always Next Year. And, you got a lot of the bottom of the standings, the Vancouvers, the Nashvilles, the Calgarys. But we've got some spicy teams in here right off rip. We've got the Jets, Leafs, Kings, Sens, and Devils, who were all in the playoffs last year. We're telling them to take a hike and to go on till next year. We've also got the Bruins and the Penguins, who are 13th and 14th respectively in points right now. Those are our 18 teams at the bottom of this tier list. Any gripes about any of these teams? You guys think like a Jets? I don't even want to say the Leafs. We don't need to say the Leafs.
I think if there's any team from that tier who could maybe prove us wrong, it's the Devils. Just because they've been so injured this year, and if they get healthy and if they maybe make a deadline ad, I could see them going to a conference final maybe. So I think they're one team that can prove us wrong.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, to fans of any of the teams that we just threw in that list, we're sorry, but there's always next year. That's all I got to say. Prove us wrong. That's all that needs to be said. The rest of our tiers, we've got a fraudulent tier. We have one trade away. We have certified contenders and league of their own. So I'm going to start with the fraudulent tier because I have 2 teams in there that I felt like we deserve to get their flowers given to them a little bit. The Philadelphia Flyers and the New York Islanders, 11th and 6th in points respectively right now. But these are frauds in my eyes, so I'm going to place those in there myself, and then we'll get into the rest of the teams on the list, beginning with the Edmonton Oilers. They're below some of those other teams in points, but it is the Oilers. They've been to the last 2 Stanley Cups. They do this every year. Josh, what are you thinking of the Oilers? Where do they deserve to go on this list?
I've got them as a certified contender. May
Okay.
come across a little spicy because, they haven't had the best regular season. But I think they proved last year they got really hurt near the playoffs. Everyone was ready to write them off, and then they just go to the Cup final again.
Yeah.
So as long as McDavid and Draisaitl there and they're playing at their best, which they've been great this year, I think they're a certified contender, especially since they just addressed their biggest need with Tristan Jarry in net.
Did they address it though?
I mean, he's better than Skinner. He's better than what they've had in the past. I know it's not the elite goalie maybe you wanted, but it's an upgrade. So I'm still ready to keep them in certified contender status.
I'm not comfortable with the certified contender status. Like, I think they're one trade away, and I don't know if that's the perfect description for them, but I don't think they're quite in that second tier there from the top where there's more problems than just, okay, we got Tristan Jarry, everything's fine. Although McDavid is going off in December. I think he has 17 points in 6 games or something wild
Pretty
like
good.
that. So I don't know. Like, and we could say the one trade away. Like, is it something on defense? Is it some more help up front? Like, there's also multiple areas to plug in here. So I'm more leaning towards one trade away.
The roster today versus, let's say, the Dallas Stars again in a series. Who are you taking?
It's so tough, but honestly, I'm not betting against McDavid and Draisaitl in
Okay.
the playoffs until they get to the Cup final, basically.
I am.
That's fair.
I look at this roster right now, and I look at the echelon of teams in the Central, and it's like, okay, can they make their way through the Pacific? Maybe or probably, but I don't see them as that true certified contender right now based off of their play, based off of some of the holes they still have. I'm comfortable putting them in one trade away. If it is literally just getting another goaltender in addition to Tristan Jarry, I'm okay with that. But for me, I'm not comfortable putting them quite in certified contender. Levi, where do you feel?
Well, I'm gonna let you guys be the experts.
Oh, this guy.
because it's
He
easier.
doesn't want the Edmonton hate.
I would probably lean more with Josh, like
Yeah.
just given the track record and that, like we've sat here on this show and
Yeah.
said it before. Oh, I don't know about the Oilers, and the next thing you know, the Oilers in the Cup Finals. But I think they're not winning these cups, so at some point you got to make a move to win a cup. I'll side with you guys and say a trade away, also for the fact that it's
Okay.
a peace of mind that we can have an actual category to put them in.
A big part of it for me is, like, we're 40% in the season. This isn't 2 weeks in where it's like, they'll figure it out. It's like,
Yeah.
they might still figure it out for sure. But
They've
I feel
been
like
better
the
of
sample
late,
size is getting
but-
bigger, yeah.
Yeah. All right. First team in is the Edmonton Oilers in the one trade away category. On to you, John. You're going to spearhead this one. The team that they've seen now back-to-back years who are also struggling out the gate, the Florida Panthers. Where do you think they belong?
Yeah, they're super hard to put into a tier here because they're so unique, right? They've
Yeah.
been to the Cup final 3 years in a row. We know that they can cruise during the regular season sometimes. Tkachuk hasn't played a single game. Barkov hasn't played a single game and won't until the playoffs, hopefully, for the the Panthers' sake. But it's just like in the back of your head, it's like you can't count out the Panthers. So it's like, okay, they're not fraudulent for me, especially because it's not like the record, suggests that we should be questioning them,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
In
are
that
they
sense.
good?
So it's like, okay, are they certified contenders? One trade away. I'm kind of on the fence with those two, but since we haven't seen the wins come in any sort of big bundle, I'm not super prepared to put them in certified contenders,
Yeah.
especially when you consider, like, okay, guys like Sam Bennett haven't had the best year. Reinhardt's been okay, but, not scoring 50 goals, that kind of thing. So I by no means am counting them out, but to put them in certified contenders seems a little rich, considering, like, how much of this is reputation versus what they've put on tape so far.
Yeah.
My mileage on this all depends on Barkov. Like, if he's back in the playoffs, for me, they're easily still in certified contender. If he's not, or if it's like he's coming back at like the end of like the second round or something like that, then I feel like they need to make some kind of significant forward addition to help alleviate that over the course of the season. I'm still putting them in certified contender personally, just because of what they have done and because of the guys that they have currently out are at least projected or expected to be back in some capacity. But it really hinges on Barkov for me. But, like, Josh, where are you on the whole Florida thing? Because it's really tough for me as well.
It's tough. I would put them in a trade away just because of the injuries and the not knowing with Barkov when or if he's going to be back at all. So I think they need to add a center in case he's not back. So I would put them in a trade away.
Yeah, and it's so hard to analyze this team because Barkov, it's like taking away McDavid for a whole season. It's
Yeah.
like taking away Kucherov. Like, it's not like Kachuk's one thing, and he's by no
He'll be
means
back
a small
soon, too.
part.
Yeah.
But losing Barkov for the whole season is just it completely like changes the complexion of their team.
Yeah. So trade away, we can.
I'm
some of us can
I'm
agree?
fine with trade away because, again, like, if Barkov's back for like game 2 or 3 of the playoffs or something like that, then I feel they're absolutely still that contender tier. But
For
then
sure.
it's also like, what is he coming back and stuff? So
Yeah.
I'd be much more comfortable with them in certified contender if they make a trade. So it's pretty clearly one trade away. Then.
Another thing for me is like how many teams are we going to put in certified contenders,
Yeah.
right? So I'm sort of
How many
saving some of my
contenders?
bullets for later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got the last two finalists of the last 2 years, of the Stanley Cup, tiered out. Now on to it. It's hilarious to say this team after saying those teams, because they haven't been in these conversations for like a decade now. The Detroit Red Wings off to an awesome start. They're still playing well. It was like week after week we kind of doubted them, and they're still up there in the standings. Kyle, you're gonna lead this one. Detroit, where do you think that they fit?
Yeah, they're still tied for the Atlantic lead right
Yeah,
now. Like
crazy.
it's obviously very congested standings,
Yeah.
but very impressive, like kind of first half almost of the season for the Red Wings. And they're in a very good position to finally break through and get into the playoffs here. But we're not tier ranking playoff odds. We're tier ranking cup contender odds.
Yes.
And as much as I think they're in a great position to make the playoffs and be an intriguing team if they get there and some things like that, and like Dylan Larkin's been awesome, Moritz Seider should legitimately get some Norris attention in terms of like some 3rd to 5th place votes based off the way that he's playing right now. I just have too many questions about the overall look of this roster. Like, outside of Edmonton and Seider on that defense, it is very questionable, and that's putting it kind of kindly.
Hence the Quinn Hughes rumors, right? It's like you plug him in there, all of a sudden
Exactly.
everything's changed.
But it's not just that. It's also you've got an older Cam Talbot in net. You've got an up and down John Gibson. Like, could you go to Sebastian Costa and get some good play out of that? He's been great in the AHL, but like, there's too many question marks for me. So I have them as a fraudulent team in terms of cup contention right now. Still a ways away from that for me. It would be great to see them get back into the playoffs. I think they're in a good position to do that. But again, we're not ranking whether they're going to be a playoff team here. We're ranking cup contention odds, and for me, they're a fraudulent team in that regard.
I totally agree with fraudulent as well. I just don't see how anyone could say they're a contender, even one trade away, unless, again, maybe if that trade was a Quinn Hughes, but it's clearly not.
That's
so,
the one trade away.
and there's no one else out there like that kind of impact player they can have. So yeah, I'm with you with fraudulent.
The argument, for one trade away would be if they get like an impact defenseman,
Sure.
right? Because then all of a sudden, if you had like a 3-headed monster of Edvinson, Seider, and then whoever else that is, you could convince yourself in a weaker Eastern Conference maybe, but especially with Hughes off the market, it's tough to see that.
I'm
for
not
me.
there.
It's been such a roller coaster for Detroit this year. Like, even though they are like so high up in the Atlantic, like some weeks they're below the wild card, some weeks they're leading the Atlantic. Like, and so there's that. That's sort of like I haven't quite bought into what they're selling. There's that, and then looking forward, which is not part of this exercise, but looking forward, like if we did this next year at this point, I feel like they might be a team that surprises us. Like maybe they're a certified contender next year. Like with the way that their core is progressing, Seider, Raymond, Larkin, etc., and the fact that they could make some noise in the summer, I feel like
They've got room.
looking
and assets.
forward, like there's something there.
You agree though, fraudulent?
Yes, fraudulent. I guess I didn't really answer. the
He
question
had a
there.
nice compliment. Yeah, no, they're frauds.
Ah, frauds.
All right, we got it. We got a team joining those Flyers and Islanders in the fraud department. 3 teams through. On to the next. Another team that I wasn't surprised by. I know I victory
Yeah.
lapped this maybe
Yep.
as much as I can victory lap anything. The Montreal Canadiens are playing great hockey still. Josh, where do you have them?
Frauds.
Okay.
Frauds.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
No Leafs bias?
no Leafs bias here. No Leafs bias here. I just don't think they're a trade away because I think there are multiple holes. The goaltending, major questions. The center depth is concerning to me. They really need a second line center. I think the D, they could maybe use one more sturdy guy back there. Yeah, so I don't think they're a trade away, and there's no way you could possibly conceive them as a contender. So to me, they're frauds.
I think that's fair, and even if it was just the goaltending, it's like who are you acquiring, right? Like you see what Edmonton just did getting Jari. Complete wild card. Who knows if that's going to work out? And you assume that they canvassed the whole league, and that was the best they could do. So Montreal's in a bit of a tough spot. Of course, Jacob Fowler could go off here. He has the pedigree, but I think that's putting a lot on a kid's shoulders. So I'm fine with fraudulent, even though it's like they're closer to one trade away than like some of these other teams in fraudulent. But let's keep them in the fraud department.
I was going to say, talking about acquiring a goaltender, what if they have him already in Jacob Fowler? Like, he's 21 years old. He's had 2 great seasons in the NCAA. He's only a few games into his pro career, but what if he is these top goaltenders that can step into the league and be an impact guy right away? I know that's asking a lot, but if that's the case, then I think you're talking about an impact center ad, and then you're again, in that conversation in a weaker Eastern Conference. So for me, I'd be comfortable having them in that one trade away if they can get that impact kind of center and kind of fill that void of that second line spot. But seemingly you both have them as frauds, so I'm okay conceding that.
I think it's just a huge if with Fowler too, and just to me they don't play like great team defense structurally. So I don't think a goalie's coming in and just blowing the doors off.
Montreal Canadiens being frauds, that's okay with me as well as another Leafs fan here.
Were you just victory lapping them?
I was victory lapping them, but at the end of the day,
Pick a team.
That rivalry will always be there. So, all right, another fraudster that we have on the list here. Another fun team for you to lead us with here, John, the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, this was a team that was bottom 10 in points last year. The rebuild seemed to be there, but, like, it wasn't computing, and they look so awesome right now. I love the Ducks. Still tied for the lead in that Pacific Division, too, with the Golden Knights, who obviously are a very good team. Where do you think that they fall in this kind of resurgence of a season that they're having?
I mean, yeah, night and day from Greg Cronin Ducks to Joel Quenneville Ducks. Leo Carlson probably across the league has taken the biggest step forward of any young player. So that's super encouraging. Beckett Seneca looks fantastic. They have a goalie for the next decade in Lucas Dostal. The problem is that they're terrible defensively still. And I feel like their roster's pretty incomplete still. Like, I feel like they're still under construction. I don't think that they're a cup contender. So then it leaves us with, are they one trade away or are they fraudulent? I lean fraudulent, but I don't feel great about it because they've been so good. Like, they put a lot of points on the board. But I just feel like it's so rare for a team to leap from out of the playoffs and a bit of a dumpster fire to like, okay, these guys are legit, even with the Quenneville sort of layer on top of this.
Yeah, you usually have to fail in the playoffs a few times before you really go on.
It
those
just feels
runs, right?
like I believe in them long term, but I just this year it feels like, okay, maybe they get in the playoffs and they get like
It's like they
bounced in 4 games or
Yeah,
something.
they can't
you know
go
what I mean?
all the way and make this crazy rebuild all in 1 year, you're thinking?
It's so rare.
Yeah, I would agree with frauds, by the way, just because of the youth there.
Wow.
I don't trust them to
Kyle?
basically go on a run the first year making
Yeah.
it.
I like them as one trade away in terms of like their forward depth is legit, and if they add like another center there, I think they can roll 3 lines with kind of anyone if they keep these young guys going. But then I kind of take that, but then I think about this roster and say you add somebody to it, but then do you take them in a series versus Vegas? Probably not. Do you take them in a series against Edmonton? Probably not. And then it's like if you're the 3rd or 4th team in your division, then can you legitimately put them that high? So I'm fine with fraudulent for right now, but this is a team with a very high potential over the coming years.
Yeah, I don't feel great about this. Like they could.
I just like my standpoint. I mean, you guys are the experts. I'm nothing compared to you when it comes to the hockey knowledge. But
Come
like
on now.
we talked about it 2 weeks ago, a possible trade for Ryan O'Reilly, who him and himself, like obviously a great player. But I said I was like, so you'd have like a 4th line of Frank Vetrano and Ryan Strome, like those 2 guys on that line. To me, is like the recipe to playoff hockey success. I know the back end doesn't translate at all to what that does, but like if you can roll out 11, 12 guys that are that good and that battle tested, mind you, those rookies and the younger guys aren't exactly, but they're still so talented. I feel like the way that they've had it's not a bunch of youthful young guys. It's not kind of what we've been seeing with the Habs, where they fizzled out last year with a bunch of their
There's a
young
lot
guys.
of vets on this team.
There's a lot of vets.
Trouba,
There's
Kreider,
battle tested guys, Kreider, Trouba,
Gudis.
like even a guy like a Ryan Strome. Like, I don't know. The recipe makes sense. I'm fine with having them as fraudulent as well, but personally, I would say a trade away. So
I like it.
That's my 2 cents. If I had to vouch for any team here, it's going to be the Anaheim Ducks because I just love what they're doing. On to the next team, a team who is quite literally the opposite of the Ducks, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They've been doing this for years and years, and a bit of a down year, a bit of a slow start, but they're right back in the mix. Where do we've got Tampa Bay Lightning?
It's looking a little empty up there, eh? At the top
I
of this.
think
No
I've got
contenders yet.
I've got them as a certified contender.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, we just talked about some of the forward depth here. This is the deepest forward group that the Lightning have had in years, with Oliver Bjorkstrand healthy, the addition of Yanni Gourde at the deadline there last year as well. We were high on them going into the playoffs without Oliver Bjorkstrand, who they gave up a couple of first-round picks to get last year. He's in the mix there. Again, that forward depth is really what moves the needle for me. And then it's additionally, like, what we've seen from them early this season with how depleted their defense has been.
Yep.
Like, they've had, like, AHL guys and throughout the defense group, plus, like, J.J. Moser, who's been fantastic this year. But it's basically been, like, a bunch of AHL randoms with J.J. Moser for most of the season, and they're still doing what they've done in the Atlantic Division. It's not to say they've been like a Colorado Avalanche running away with things or anything like that, but after a slower start, they figured things out, and I think they've kind of solidified themselves as clearly the best team in the Atlantic Division for myself. And so when I think about that, when I think about their playoff pedigree, and I think about Victor Hedman coming back and hopefully being healthy, Ryan McDonough coming back and being healthy, and some of the guys that they have there that seem to work so well in a playoff setting, if they can have a more favorable first-round matchup than going up against the Florida Panthers or something like that, again, I really like this team going on a deep run. So for me, they're a certified contender. They're one of the few teams that I feel very good about going deep throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs.
I agree with certified contender, and it's in part, like you said, just the path to the Cup could be easier this year than it's been in the past. Because say you're playing Florida in round 1 or 2, probably no Barkov. So I would take Tampa in that matchup all the way. Yeah, the East is just so jumbled. I really like Tampa's chances this year.
I totally agree with you guys. And the only thing I'd add is John Cooper deserves some Jack Adams love in terms of that blue line and still not only like staying afloat, but like trajectory in terms of the standings all season long. And he is so good at deploying his players. Like, okay, Cirelli, you all defensive zone starts. Okay, offensive center, all offensive zone starts. And he's just so like dialed into that. And, you kind of need that when you're a team that has a bunch of stars, and then when you get lower in the lineup, it gets a little dicey, although they have improved the depth, as you added, Kyle. But I'm fairly high on Tampa overall based on their path, as Josh mentioned.
And so I think the argument against Tampa in this tier would be like making a defense add or making a trade there. But for me, that kind of trade would put them into a league of their own in the Eastern Conference. Versus being an entire...
Now he's just making up tiers as we go.
Who said I can't? I didn't know you were the commissioner here. Yeah, but I'm saying in terms of like if the argument is making a trade there, I think that levels them up from certified contender to like pretty clearly the top team in the Eastern Conference. So that's why I've got them in certified contender and seemingly in agreement here.
Yep. Yeah. So Tampa back into Cup contention, and they're also in their own fringe tier of a conference of their own. So it sounds
trademark it.
Yeah, we got 6 teams left here. Josh, Washington Capitals.
I've got them at 1 trade away. And I don't know necessarily what that trade would exactly be, but I don't think they're a certified contender, and I don't think they're fraudulent. They play great team defense. They've got great goaltending. I think maybe an impact forward, if they could add someone up front to just make them that much deeper and scary, I think they could be a contender. So I'm putting them in 1 trade away.
Fraudulent for me.
Really?
I look at this team, and I think it's a great regular season team because they play so competitive. They play together. But I look at this team in a 7-game series going up against any kind of number of like true contender, and I just don't see them matching up that well in terms of what we saw last year in the playoffs. And I don't really know if they've improved at all going into this year. So like when I look at teams in the Eastern Conference, like if they made it all the way through, I like a lot of the other teams kind of more than them. I like Carolina quite a bit more. Like even a team that we have a tier lower, like the Devils. Like I think that's a really intriguing playoff matchup, and I would not probably pick the Capitals in that kind of series. So for me, I've got them in fraudulent. I think they're a team that, while they're going to consistently put up good regular season results like they did last year, I just don't know if they're like 1 trade away from like true Cup contention here, and that's what we're ranking out.
I'm 1 trade away here. I think putting them in fraudulent would be, I guess, overstating sort of their ceiling or their floor even. Like I think that they're very deep. And I think that takes them pretty far. Not necessarily in the playoffs, but I think they can win a round. And if we look at this board...
I don't know if you know this, but they don't hand out the cup after 1 round.
Yeah,
as a Leafs fan, I'm well aware of that.
Well, look at the teams in fraudulent, though. I mean, I just don't think that Washington belongs in there.
But are they in a tier with Florida and Edmonton?
I think they are. Okay. I think their 5-on-5
Ooh.
game is elite enough, both over the surface and under the surface, that once you get in the playoffs and there's fewer power plays, that becomes even more important.
I worry about how Carolina did in the conference finals and then how Carolina handled Washington and that trickle-down effect. And I don't think Washington is, I don't think they're markedly better this season. So that's my concern.
My stance would be, had they not had good for them, they finished first in the conference, but had they had not such a favorable matchup against the Habs in that first round last year, and they played a bit of a tougher team and fizzled out, would we be confident, at least even if they were first in the league right now? I think I'd be sitting here saying frauds still. So I think there should be something to be said about kind of their path in the playoffs last year. But
What kind of trade would you guys want to see to have them as like that true cup
it's a
contender?
good question.
I think probably just best forward available that they can get. Center, left wing, right wing. I think the D is fine how it is. Goaltending's obviously been really good. Logan Thompson. So just the best forward they could get.
Yeah, I'd go the same forward.
Okay. Washington Capitals are frauds. You have it here.
We'll put them in one trade away here. I think it's a little too crowded there in frauds.
You're right. You're right.
I don't know. I just see them different
I
than those
don't
other
believe
teams.
in them though. I don't believe in them.
All right.
We need to create another tier. Forget the conference of
We
their
need
own. We
more
need
tiers.
like
We should just have a
two trades away.
tier
or
for
something.
every team here. All right, we got 5 left here. The team that we kicked the show off with, the Minnesota Wild. Very fascinated to see where you guys think this one falls. John, we'll start with you.
Oh boy, like this is so tough because we haven't seen enough of Quinn Hughes in Minnesota, and I think without him, they were probably in fraudulent. With him, you know, do you jump all the way to certified contender?
Is that the trade away? Right.
Right. I mean, but yeah, as Josh mentioned off the top, like the center depth is very concerning. So can they go out and get a center to solidify that position? Maybe. But then like the other part of me goes, they have play drivers on wing, they have play drivers on defense. Like, are they fine without? So, and like the wall stat has been incredible. Gustafson's already a good goalie in the NHL. Like their goaltending is top notch. What kind of hangs me up in terms of putting them in certified contenders is they got to go through Dallas and they got to go through Colorado. So like, are we going to put 3 teams that high from the same division?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess we could argue about that, but I'm going to start with one trade away and see what you guys think.
I mean, I already sort of said my piece on this. I think they're one trade away as well. I just don't think you're winning a Stanley Cup with Ryan Hartman or Danila Yurov as your second line and third line centers right now. I'm a big believer in Joel Eriksson Ek.
Yeah.
He's amazing defensively, and the offense has really caught up. I'm fine with him as your number 1, but you need like a legit number 2 to push Hartman down to 3.
For me, they're a certified contender. When I look at this top 4, when they're all healthy, I don't think there's really anybody that matches that kind of complete defensive shutdown game and like breakneck offense that you're getting now with Quinn Hughes. I look at what Kaprizov can bring as this kind of dynamic guy in the playoffs. I look at what Matt Boldy can do. And even though the center depth is definitely the weak point of the roster, I don't think it's like scrubs that they have there. Like Joel Eriksson Ek, like you mentioned, is a very good player. Danila Yurov has been pretty good early on, and I think he's going to continue to grow over the course of this season. I think they have enough depth at forward. I think they have the play drivers on the wing. I think they have the elite top 4, and they have 2 guys in net now where you feel confident probably in either one being hot at the right time or going to either one of them. So for me, I have them in certified contenders.
So if they played Dallas in round 1, who would you take?
I would take Dallas in that series head-to-head, but in terms of the certified contenders, I could see them winning that series. And in terms of kind of the rest of the teams in the NHL, I think they're better than a lot of them. And so in terms of like that head-to-head matchup, I've got Dallas ahead. Spoiler alert for where I think we're going to end up putting them here. But I think that's going to be a competitive matchup.
I think we have to look at Stanley Cup paths, and if Wild were in the Eastern Conference, I think I would have them as a contender, but being where they are in that really tough Central Division, I don't think they're getting past Dallas and Colorado without a center ad. That's why, for me, one trade away.
I think I'm being convinced that it's certified contender because sort of to Kyle's point, but to hammer it home, it's like in the playoffs, if they run out a 5-man unit of Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, Boldy, Quinn Hughes, and Brock Faber, like, you know, whatever, 6-on-5 or power play, whatever, like those minutes, the high leverage minutes, like, is there a team that can do better than that? Like maybe the Oilers because you're combining, or maybe the Avs because you're combining 2 amazing players. But like that's incredible.
Yeah.
And I wonder too, again to Kyle's point in terms of the blue line, like right now it's Faber and Hughes, but do you split them up and have, you know, whatever, Brodin in there, Middleton, whoever
Spurgeon
ends up,
too.
Spurgeon, like there's a lot of options, and then you basically have Faber or Hughes on the ice for whatever 55 minutes of the game. Like I feel like their top gear could be really tantalizing.
Really good.
The only thing honestly stopping me as we have this discussion is the whole like path. But I think I've moved over to certified
Contenders.
Let's do it.
Contenders. I'm
Because
happy.
Whoever gets out of the Central, I feel like are just like on a rocket ship.
And that's the thing for me. It's like looking at like the last couple years in like the Atlantic as an example, where it's been like whoever gets out of there feels pretty good. And like for me, it's those 3 teams are clearly like 3 of the best teams in the NHL right now. and the path part of it is tough, but I don't think the Wild, in terms of the quality of their team, should be docked that significantly for their path, because I think that they have a chance in a series against the Stars. I think they have a chance in a series even against the Avalanche. And if they get through that with the roster as is, I think it would be disrespectful to their current roster to have them in a tier lower, even if another trade certainly helps in these regards. But I think ultimately you look at this roster and kind of what they could do, I think they have a chance against anybody in the NHL in terms of a 7-game series.
Wild certified contenders. It would have felt counterintuitive to put them in a trade away, considering they just made that trade. But I think I do need to ask, because that's our tier here. Pre Quinn Hughes trade, are they in the frauds? Is that where you'd have them?
Probably.
I would have had
There
them.
we go. So we kind of got real living proof that one trade away really does influence where you end up on our tier list here.
You're just trying to pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, Minnesota Wild,
Best tier
certified
list ever.
contenders, best tier list ever, best categories ever. 4 teams left here. Vegas Golden Knights. Where do we have them?
Yeah, this one's pretty quick for me. It's certified contender. I think you look at the overall makeup of this roster, and you look at the Pacific Division as well, kind of the state that they're in, you feel pretty comfortable with the path to the conference final, depending on that Edmonton matchup, of course. But for me, I kind of look at the forward depth that they have when they're healthy, because they've had a lot of injury issues. You look at defense, and even without Pietrangelo, I like that defense overall. I think about the path in the Central. 2 of the 3 of those teams are going to have to lose at some point, and whoever's getting through is probably playing a couple very tough series as well. I like Vegas in the certified contender tier just because of their maybe easier path, but also because of the quality of their roster getting to a point where they're probably more likely than a lot of other these teams to actually get to a Final Four.
So I'm a little torn on this one. I think they are a contender, but I also don't think they're a tier above the Oilers, who beat them in the playoffs last year, if that makes sense. So for that reason, I would lean toward a trade away. I think they could use a right-handed D to make up for the Pietrangelo absence, maybe a Rasmus Anderson. That's been a long rumor. So I'm a little torn on this one. I'm okay with certified contender, but I just don't think they're above the Oilers.
I get that hesitation, but I also think just Vegas's track record of being, like, under Bruce Cassidy, just being so solid defensively, like, just the floor is super high on this team. Compared to Edmonton, you just don't know what you're going to get. So I'm more comfortable putting them in certified contenders than one trade away, just based on, like, they have this sort of powerhouse element to them every time they step onto the ice, if that makes sense.
Okay, Vegas Golden Knights certified contenders. We've got 3 teams filling up that category now. I'm curious to see, down to the top 3 teams in the league, if any of you guys slip any of these teams into that top tier, because I believe that there's one that might belong there. Are you guys going to get flirty with another one? First up, the most points in the East right now, Carolina Hurricanes, Josh.
This one's also tricky, too. I've got them as certified contenders
Okay.
because they've gotten to this point, too, with a lot of injuries. Slavin just returned after missing, I think it was 29 games. Keandre Miller missed time. They've been really banged up, and yet here they are. Been to the Eastern Conference Finals a bunch of time in recent years. I'm comfortable calling them a certified contender, though I still would like to see some additions at the deadline. They have the cap space and the ammunition to do it.
They're pretty obviously the toast of the Metro at this point, right? So I think it wouldn't make sense to put them in one trade away, even though obviously they could use upgrades as most teams. I think just given the way that our board is laying out, they got to be in certified contenders.
Yeah.
Like, and we know with their cap space, with their draft capital, like, they will at least try to make a massive trade. They tried to get Quinn Hughes. So I think if you project that and assume that they get at least one impact player, maybe he's not a star, then there you go.
Do you know how you get one impact player?
Tell me.
By making a trade. They're one trade away.
No, but I'm saying that'll
I'm
make
saying-
them even better that
But
way.
I'm saying they're
League
one
of their
trade
own.
away here.
Yeah.
What have you guys seen from them in the conference finals? Any of these trips that make you feel confident about them being an actual Stanley Cup contender?
But I feel like
Because they've gotten dog walked every single time they've got to the Final Four.
To be fair, though, Florida last year was just an absolute wagon.
Yeah.
So, but
And I just feel like Carolina's
What about the year
slowly
before?
but surely like gotten more, finishing talent, more creative in terms of how they play. Like I feel like it's starting to tilt where like they're actually going to get that goal when they need it. The goaltending, that's always
Bussy.
up in the air. But
you're not all aboard the Bussy.
I'm not on the Bussy train or Bussy bus. I don't know. This is a bit of a like you could go either way, certified or one trade away. But
one of the biggest changes for me with Carolina this year is Logan Stankoven playing center and becoming a legit second-line center, because that's been a major hole in past conference finals. So he really has been driving that second line. I think that's been a huge game changer.
I like Logan Stankoven a lot. I don't know if he's moving the needle enough for me in a conference final situation to have them in that certified contenders tier. I've been burned by them way too many times.
Yeah.
I need to see it before I believe it, or I need to see an impact trade really impacting kind of the upper echelon of this roster. So for me, they're one trade away, but I will concede having them one tier higher.
We only have 2 Eastern Conference teams in the certified contenders, and we don't have any Eastern Conference teams to talk about. So I guess just by definition, they're a Final Four team for us. So.
Well, that's not the Stanley Cup.
Well, that's a certified
that makes you a
contender.
contender, though.
Is it?
Of course it is.
I think being
How?
a top
You're
four-
one.
You don't win the Stanley Cup by making the Final Four.
Yeah, but your
then by that
chances are
logic,
extremely
yeah.
high. Like your probability of winning.
They've won one conference final game in the past 20 years.
But if you look at the list, there's only 2 Eastern Conference teams.
Oh, I'm aware of the
High.
breakdown. The Eastern Conference is not good.
Hence why they deserve to be certified contenders.
Do you take Carolina in a matchup against Edmonton, Minnesota, Vegas, any of those teams in like a Stanley Cup final?
Well, we're talking about path too, so like it's in a
But
Stanley
we're
Cup
talking
final,
about
but
the odds to win the Stanley Cup.
I think if you're in a cup final though, like,
Anything
you're
can happen.
you're a certified contender because you got there.
Sounds like deflecting the question.
That does sound like deflecting.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
I will say I don't hate a trade away either, considering we've seen them be a trade away, make a trade, and
Put 'em in
still-
fraud.
Why don't we, let's leave this one to Levi.
No,
Levi
it's
decides.
2-1 here. It's 2-1.
2-1. We'll put the, you know what, for the sake of, kind of the
You
completeness.
guys feel bad about the East.
the completeness of the graphic, we'll put them in contenders. But I am in your camp on this one, Kyle. And yeah, honestly, they've been a trade away for quite some time, and they keep making these trades. And what happens?
I will say
get a little bit
I
better.
will say I am scared of Rod Brindamore. So if he sends me a message, I will
Yes.
put them
I
on
hope
the
I
tier.
hope
Okay.
Rod's
Fair
not
enough.
watching this video. Yeah. Okay. 2 teams left: Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche. We start with the Stars, John. What are you doing with the Stars?
I'm putting them in certified contenders.
Okay.
And it seems like almost an insult given how good their season's been. I mean, I actually look back, and the previous 2 President's Trophy winners had a worse points percentage than they currently have. They're at like
That's crazy.
7-12 or
Crazy.
something. Like it's like Colorado, Dallas, and then the rest of the league
Yeah.
in terms of points percentage and sort of where things are going in the standings. I mean, we talked about it a few shows ago where I think that Dallas is arguably the most complete team in the league because their goaltending is so strong, and you look at the 2 horses on the back end and a ton of talent up front. So I think they throw a lot at you. But I just don't think that they end up in that top tier, which, there's another team left. I don't know if we should give it away, but they are like a really good certified contender. I'll put it that way.
Absolutely, without a doubt, certified contender. Like
No gripes.
a head-to-head matchup against the Avalanche, I want to see that so badly.
just not in round 1, or
And
it won't be in round 1.
They
but-
don't. So Dallas doesn't need to make a trade, but they will have cap space with Tyler Seguin being on LTIR. It could be like $3 million. It could be $9.85 million, depending on
If he comes
Seguin's,
back or not.
Seguin's timeline. I mean, that's significant for a team that hasn't had cap space lately because they have so many good players. So that's something to watch out as well.
I'm with certified contender as well. And one thing I'll just add, the fact that we're even discussing them being in a league of their own, but them and Colorado could meet in the second round
Yeah.
just shows how flawed the
wild.
playoff
It's
format is and
criminal.
why we need to go back to 1
Yes.
versus 8.
Can we put
Yes.
the playoff format in fraudulent?
Honestly,
Let's go.
I mean, I would put that could be the Stanley Cup Finals. If someone came up to me and they're like, "Yeah, I think we're just gonna sim through the season. We'll have Dallas, Colorado Finals." Like, even though I'd be like, "Sure, sounds good to me. I'd love to watch that."
Give me a
series.
reseeding in the Final Four as well. I'd love to see that.
All right, so Dallas is a certified contender. Nobody had the guts to put them in a league of their own. That's where the Colorado Avalanche belong. Or is this going to be an empty tier? Do we have a complete
No, the
curveball?
Colorado Avalanche are in a league of their own. What we've seen from them this season has been spectacular. Like we knew this was a good team coming into this season, but just the pure dominance that they've played with, like Nathan McKinnon, the numbers that he has, even just at 5-on-5, have been absurd. 2 legit MVP candidates. They're getting great goaltending, which is something that they've not had in the past. Just feels like everything is working with this roster. And we haven't seen what additions they're going to make over the course of the season. They're clearly in a league of their own in terms of the best team in the NHL. We see it in the standings.
Mm-hmm.
They're up there for a reason. Clearly the best team in the NHL right now, and the team that everyone has the target on the back of.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. A league of their own. They're just so good, top to bottom. They're so dynamic. They're deep. They're physical. I love the way they play. They're so fun to watch. And they were my cup pick at the beginning of the year, so I can't go back now.
Let's do a little victory lap.
I mean, you look at every offensive category, like whether it's sort of like
It's stupid.
just the basic stuff or like what you see on like Evolving Hockey or Sport Logic, like they're literally 1 or 2 in every single category. And then they have the goaltenders and the defense to be first in goals against. So it's like, what are we doing if we're not putting them in that top 10?
Yeah, I mean, they've played 32 games this year. They've lost 2 of those games in regulation. That's
ridiculous.
Unbelievable. Honestly, them and the OKC Thunder, like they're both having these kind of dueling seasons right now of just like shooting for the stars and maybe making history. It's so cool to watch a team do it in hockey, though, like where it's, we say what we want about basketball. I think it's a little bit trickier to be this good in hockey. So hats off to the Colorado Avalanche. But there's the tier list. We've got every team tiered out. Let us know in the comments how you feel about this. I'm sure, as always, there'll be lots of happy fans in the comments, really agreeing with all of our opinions and stuff. This is a fun exercise, though, and I'm excited to see if we reflect on this month, maybe 2 months from now, where everything shakes out, because again, like the parity's been awesome, and there's for sure some teams that could definitely be moved around here, even some teams in the bottom moving up, some teams up top coming down. So I can't wait to see how it shakes out. That's just hockey, though. Every year it's the parity. That's all we talk about. So we will be back again next Tuesday. World Junior preview. Fired up for that. Taking a quick break from the NHL there to talk about the World Juniors. Going to be a fun tournament. Canada looks stacked. I'll say that. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to everyone in the production room, all of us here. This has been Top Shelf presented by Enterprise.